So we're looking at Patagonia's latest flagship online presence. I believe this was done by Basic Agency, one of my agency crushes. And one of the things I've loved about this iteration of their online store is that the way that they introduce kind of like full bleed image sections or videos. So as I scroll down, notice here this kind of like white padding around this large full bleed section will begin to kind of scale out. And then there's this dampening where I'm scrolling, but it's still not scrolling out of view until after a little bit. So it kind of gives you the opportunity to experience the, it's almost like in movie theaters, you know, when like the movie kind of like widens. It's kind of like that experience of getting you ready for an important moment. So I just really love this interaction and want to take a video to go ahead and try to recreate this inside of Webflow. All right, we're inside of Webflow and I'm super excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so we've got our section here, and the first thing we need to do is build that kind of dampening that we saw on Patagonia. So the way that it kind of stays in view, and we're going to use sticky positioning to do that. So inside of our section, we're going to add a div block, and let's call it sticky video wrapper. And what I want to do is give this quite a bit of height using viewport height units to give us a little of extra breathing room. So something like 225 VH or something like that should do it. So you can see that I'm almost scrolling twice as, or a little bit over twice as much as the viewport height. And then inside of our wrapper, let's add another div block and we'll call it sticky video. All right, I'm going to set this to position sticky and make the top position 0. And let's give this a background color so we can kind of see what we're doing here. But you can see that as we scroll, it's staying at the top of the screen through the entire height of that sticky video wrapper. And we'll give the height 100 VH. So now it's staying in view through its whole parent. One little tip I want to make sure I mention is whenever you have something that is positioned sticky, you have to make sure that there's no parent element all the way up to the body. So I just hit the up arrow key, and none of the parent elements can have a overflow of hidden. If you do, then it'll disable the stickiness. So just a small tip there. All right, then with sticky video, let's add an image, and sticky is technically a positioned element, and so we can actually absolutely position anything inside of it. So we're going to use our image cover class that we've used in lots of other tutorials. I won't go into it here since you can probably watch a few of the other videos to get that, or you can look at the read-only link to see how this works. Then inside of here, let's just add like some text. And let's do absolute center, position, absolute, 50% top and left, 50% for the left and right, for the X and Y, I mean. And now we have something that's positioned absolutely inside of our sticky video. I've got a whole video on how to position things absolutely, so feel free to check that out. And then let's add a heading, and we'll do a sticky video intro, and let's add a paragraph, no, a text block, and say inspired by Patagonia. All right. Then with our sticky video, let's make the color, text color white and center aligned. Okay. Now, probably not the best contrast ratio here, but this is just a tutorial. Okay, so now as I scroll through, you can see my scroll bar is moving here. This section is staying in view. And now we're ready to add our padding. All right, there's a lot of ways to do this, but I think the way that I thought might be the easiest was actually with inner shadow. I'm going to add a div block, and I'm going to position it below this just to make sure it doesn't eclipse our text. And let's call this video padding. And I'm gonna set the, no, what we're gonna do is use inner shadow. So click on box shadow. Instead of outside, you want inside. And we're gonna make both of these values 0. But with size, we can go ahead and manipulate this to give us an equal, equidistant inner shadow. So we're gonna do 7.5 VW. And we're also gonna set the color to white. Oops, I forgot to set this to position absolute. Okay, so we're also going to set the position to absolute and full. Okay, so now we've got the kind of like white padding around our video. And I made it 7.5 VW because the container is set to 85% width. In other words, 7.5% on either side. And that means that these edges are going to line up perfectly, which is how it looks on the Patagonia site. Okay, and now we're ready for our animation. So let's go ahead and grab our sticky video wrapper. We want the trigger to be this, since it's got the 225 VH height on it. And let's go ahead and add a while scrolling in view. And we're going to add a new one called video intro. All right, then we're going to grab our video padding and we're going to use a scale. Where's my scale? There it is. To essentially scale the padding out of view. So we're going to start off at 1 and we want to scale up to around 1.25. All right, now I did experiment with this before I started recording. And what I realized was that since this is a landscape orientation, you can see that when I scroll, it's gonna this is gonna scroll out of view, or scale out of view I should say, faster than the top will. And I think the magic of this is kind of, it's all scaling kind of equally. And so I think you can just kind of like unhook these, and the Y we can set to 1.5. So now we can kind of see that it's not perfect, but it's scaling a little bit more equilaterally through the section. Okay, let me go ahead and increase the smoothing. And what I want to mention is that I think one nice thing about the Patagonia site is it doesn't start scaling out until you basically hit where the top of the viewport hits the start of this section. So right here, now it starts scaling out. We want to mimic that because when it starts like down here, it just, you don't get that like nice effect where it lines up with the left edge of the card grid, and it's not that same wow moment. Okay, so what we can do that is we can actually add an offset to when the animation enters, and we want to say 100%. And what this means is that the start of the animation is instead of being right on here, which would be 0%, it's when the element is at the 100% of the way through the viewport. So now you can see that it's not going to start the animation until I hit about there, and then it'll start scaling out. All right, now to further kind of streamline this, we don't want the animation to take place the whole time you're scrolling through. We kind of want it to scale out kind of quickly and then still have a little bit of room left over for additional scrolling. So back into our video intro, let's just move this from 100% to something like 33%. So now if I do the live preview, we're going to hit the, you can see it starts right when this hits the top of the viewport, but right there, it'll hit that 33%, stay in view for a little bit, and then scroll down. All right, so now we can kind of see what this looks like. Nice. Okay, I think I'm seeing that maybe the animation is just a little bit too long, or it's a little bit too much scrolling. So maybe we can bring our video wrapper down to 200 and we can test that out. But other than that, I think this is looking really great. That does it for this week's tutorial, and I wanted to preview what we're going to be looking at next week. So here we're looking at the Teamway site, and I love this accordion layout. When you get into this section, you immediately see that there are 3 kind of subsections inside of it. So you're already primed to understand, okay, I'm looking at maybe like a process section or how it works, or 3 things that are part of one kind of meta category. So I just love how it immediately communicates just right when you look at it. And then the cool thing is, as you scroll, everything kind of stays sticky and in view, and it kind of unfurls each successive section. So I just love how this works, and we're going to be building something super similar inside of Webflow. So here we've got a section with 100 VH. As I scroll into this next section, we immediately see the 3 accordion panes inside of it. And then as I scroll, they kind of unfurl and each one passes by successively. All right, so if you want to see how this is done, go ahead and subscribe and you'll be alerted when I drop this video. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.